In this video, we're going to explore the concept of intervals and how to name them. Intervals is just defined as the distance between two notes. Understanding the naming system for intervals is really important to be able to understand them and how they function in chords and melodies. So this is pretty much just a vocabulary lesson. And it's a little dry, but it will be incredibly valuable as you move along. So the prerequisite for this is to have a good understanding of the musical alphabet, the letters A through G, and good understanding of whole steps and half steps, and then also to understand B and C are buddies, E and F are best friends. The word for that is natural half steps because they're only places where there's half steps without including sharps or flats. So we're going to use the musical staff, and it's not real critical that you're a music reader, but if you understand the musical staff as you just move a note up from the lines to space, line to space, line to space, it just goes up alphabetically. So right now on the screen I have a C, and if I move it up, it becomes a D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And that's middle C right there. So it's just alphabetical. So we're going to be thinking in the key of C for this lesson. So C is our home note, and it's just alphabet. So our primary notes that we're going to start with are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And we're going to talk about those intervals. We're going to name them. And I'll just start by throwing that at you, and we'll build a list. And then we'll see what happens when we start messing with those intervals with sharps and flats and really learning what the naming scheme is. So distance between two notes. So right now I have a C on the screen. And so I'm going to get another layer going here. I'm going to put a C over the top of my C. So this is called a unison. So I have two C's. They're just right on top of each other. So there is no distance between them. But we don't use zero because it is something. It's not nothing. It's a note. It's C. So that's called unison. Now, if I raise my second note to a D, C, D, 1, 2. So it's just numbering how many letters we've moved. The word for that is pitch class. So we're going to alter our second. So right now, it's called a major second. Now, we can change our second by adding a sharp or a flat to it. It's still going to be a second, but it won't be a major second. It'll be a something else second. So let's just go through and name these. So right now I have a second C, D, 1, 2. It's a second. Now I've got an E, C, D, E. From C to E is a major third. F, C, D, E, F, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a fourth. And I'll use my cursor here to show you how we're thinking. We're just counting the lines and spaces. C would be here, that's 1. D is 2, E is 3, F is 4. So this is called a fourth. C to F is what we call a perfect fourth. So now if I bring it up to G, C, D, E, F, G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's a perfect fifth. Now we have a major sixth, a major seventh. 8 would be your octave. They're both C's. So we have a low C and we have a high C. That would be 8, but we just use the word octave. So octaves are perfect. Fourths and fifths are perfect. And unisons are perfect. Seconds, thirds, and sixths are major. So from that list, we can start seeing what happens when we alter them. Now, the qualities I gave you are just relating them to the C major scale. Now, if we keep going past the octave, then we have numbers we use for our chord extensions. So octave, then we have ninth, then we have 10th, 11, 12, 13. So there's some numbers beyond the octave that we'll be using later. But for today, we're mostly just gonna focus on 1 through 8 to learn that naming scheme, and then we'll deal with the numbers 9 and above later. So pitch class, again, is just the number we assign to the interval. So right now we're on a unison, and it's a perfect unison. Now I'll come back to what we call it if we alter it. But let's go to the perfect fourth. So now if I raise that fourth, it's now called an augmented fourth. F sharp. But the F sharp, so C, D, E, F, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a fourth. But when we raised that F to a F sharp, it's now called an augmented fourth. Now, if we go to a G, it's a fifth. C, D, E, F, G. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So its pitch class is 5, so it's a fifth. But I could put a flat on here. So now we have G flat. Well, now it's what we call a diminished fifth. Now, F sharp and G flat, they're the same note on the piano, the same key, or same fret on your guitar. They have the same sound. We're just naming it differently. It's two names for the same note. The vocabulary word for that is enharmonic. So F sharp, G flat, they're enharmonic spellings for the same note. There's reasons for that you'll learn later, but it is important to know the difference because there's going to be situations where you really should call it an F sharp, and there's situations where you really should call it a G flat. And there's certain times when it is optional. So this is a really special interval. It's called the tritone, short for devil's tritone. And in medieval times, they were serious about this. They didn't want to hear this interval. It was evil. It scared them because it's a very dissonant and intense interval. They called it the devil's tritone, and there were times when using it was considered heresy. You could be in very serious trouble for going around singing or playing this interval. So the tritone actually has really magical qualities and is an amazing tool in modern music. So tritone is just another name for it. That word works for either the augmented fourth or the diminished fifth. So it doesn't distinguish, but tritones are very important in music. All right, so now let's go on. This is a major sixth. So whenever you have a perfect interval, I'm going to back up a little. Whenever you have a perfect interval, a perfect unison, a perfect fourth, a perfect fifth, or a perfect octave, those are the perfect ones. If you lower them, they're diminished. And if you raise them, they're augmented. Now, your second, your sixth, your second, your third, your sixth, and your seventh. Those ones are all major in your major scale, do, re, mi. And so if you lower a major interval, so here's our major six. Oh, that's the wrong symbol. I meant to go flat. So if you lower your major six, it becomes a minor six. So major intervals, when you lower them a half step, they become minor. So this is a minor six. If we go to E, C, D, E, E flat is a minor third. C, D, 1, 2. If you lower your second, it becomes a minor second. Now, if you raise a major interval, so C to D is a major second, C to D sharp would be called an augmented second. Now keep in mind, D sharp is the same note as E flat. So D sharp and E flat sound the same, but they have two different names. The D sharp is an augmented second. The E flat is a minor third. If we take our minor third and make it natural, then we have a major third. And if we make that a sharp, if we raise our third, now we have an augmented third. So seconds, thirds, sixths, and sevenths. Let's go up to our seventh. So that's a major seventh. And if we lower it, it's a minor seventh. And if you raise it, it's an augmented seventh. Now remember, B and C are buddies. It's only a half step from B to C. So a B sharp is an augmented seventh above that lower C. But if you think about it, a B sharp is a C. So an augmented seventh sounds the same as an octave. It just has a different name, so another enharmonic spelling. There's a few more names to learn. I guess the one other thing I can do is that we should probably name here is if you take your major seventh and you lower it, it's a minor seventh. If you lower it again, in other words, you make it a double flat, a B double flat sounds like an A. It would actually be called a diminished seventh. So a major interval, if you lower it once, it becomes minor. If you lower it twice, it becomes diminished. So then that would be true for, I made a little mistake there. So that would be true for your sixth as well. Major six, you lower it, it's a minor six. If you double lower it, then it becomes a diminished six. So that would also be true for your third. Major third lowered is minor third lowered is diminished third. And of course, your second was also a major interval. So if you put one flat on it, it's a minor second. And if you put two flats on it, it's a diminished second. So in this case, your diminished second sounds just like a unison because D double flat would be a C. Some of these are used more often than others, but again, it's a naming scheme. So just to recap, perfect intervals, which in your C major scale, do, re, mi, or just your alphabet, unisons, fourths, fifths, and octaves are perfect. So if you lower them, they're diminished. We don't use the word minor there. And if we raise them, they're augmented. Seconds, thirds, sixths, and sevenths are major. If we raise them, they're augmented. If we lower them, they're minor. And if we lower them twice, then they are diminished. And that's basically it for intervals.